Once upon a time, in a quiet suburban neighborhood, there was a small dog named Max. He wasn't always this tiny, scrappy creature you see now. Max had a history, a painful past that shaped every part of him. His fur, once thick and soft, was now patchy and matted. His eyes, which once sparkled with the joy of a puppy, now reflected a sadness that was too deep for words. His ears were tattered, and his body bore the scars of neglect and mistreatment. Max had been abused, left to fend for himself on the streets with no one to care for him. Max's story began in a dark place. He had been abandoned by his previous owners, left to wander the streets without food, water, or shelter. Every day was a battle for survival. He spent his days rummaging through trash cans trying to find any scraps of food. Every night, he would find a dark corner to curl up in, shivering from the cold, and longing for some warmth, some love that would never come. His trust in humans had been broken long ago, and now, every person he encountered seemed like a threat. One day, after months of surviving in the harsh streets, Max was discovered by a local animal shelter. The workers found him in an alley, his body frail and covered in wounds, his fur matted and filthy. His eyes, wide with fear, followed every movement, unsure whether these strangers would hurt him too. But the shelter workers, trained to handle animals in distress, knew exactly what Max needed. Gently they approached him, speaking in soft, calming tones, and after some time, Max cautiously allowed them to touch him. The first human contact he'd had in months was one filled with compassion. At the shelter, Max was given food and water, and the workers took him to a veterinary clinic to tend to his injuries. The vet confirmed what they already knew. Max had suffered extreme neglect. His wounds, though healing, had left scars on his body, and his spirit was broken. But as much as his physical wounds needed attention, it was his emotional scars that were most concerning. Max had grown wary of human interaction, retreating into himself whenever someone tried to get close. Weeks went by and Max's condition slowly improved. His fur began to regrow in patches and he started to gain some weight. But despite the physical healing, something still lingered in his eyes, a deep, unshakable sadness. It was clear that Max needed more than just a roof over his head and food in his bowl. He needed a family, a loving family that would help him rebuild the trust he had lost, a family that would show him that not all humans were capable of causing harm. One chilly winter afternoon, a young couple walked into the shelter. They had been looking for a dog for some time but hadn't yet found one that felt like the right fit. As they walked through the rows of cages, they paused in front of Max's enclosure. His eyes, though full of fear, seemed to communicate something deep, something that tugged at their hearts. The couple knelt down to his level, speaking gently to him. Max, hesitant at first, took a small step toward them. There was something about them, something in the way they looked at him, that made him feel a flicker of hope. The couple, Sarah and Tom, had been through their own struggles. They had always wanted a dog, but life had thrown them curveballs. Tom had grown up with dogs, and Sarah had always dreamed of having one by her side. But it wasn't until recently, after years of waiting and overcoming personal challenges, that they felt ready to bring a dog into their home. They had been visiting shelters for weeks, looking for the right fit, and when they saw Max, they knew instantly that he was the one. Max's transformation wasn't instantaneous. For the first few weeks in his new home, he was very withdrawn. He would hide under furniture, only coming out to eat or when he was sure no one was around. He didn't understand that this new place wasn't like the streets. Sarah and Tom had a patience and understanding that Max hadn't experienced before. They never pressured him to come out or to interact. They simply let him be, offering him treats and praise when he approached them, never forcing him to do anything he wasn't ready for. As the days went by, Max began to trust them more. He started to venture out of his hiding spots, though it was only for brief moments. His tail, which had been tucked between his legs in fear, began to wag ever so slightly when Sarah or Tom spoke to him. Slowly but surely, Max began to feel the warmth of love and care surrounding him. He realized that not all humans were capable of cruelty. One evening, as Sarah sat on the couch reading a book, she noticed Max sitting by the door, staring at her. His eyes, once distant and fearful, were now filled with curiosity. She put her book down and called to him in a soft voice, "Come here, Max." It took a moment, but Max finally stood up and slowly approached her. When he reached her, he stopped a few feet away, unsure of what to do next. Sarah extended her hand toward him, offering it gently, with no expectations. Max took a deep breath, and with the tiniest of steps, he moved closer and sniffed her hand. It was a small gesture, but it was a huge breakthrough for him. He was beginning to trust. Over the next few weeks, Max began to show more signs of affection. He would follow Sarah and Tom around the house, sitting at their feet, watching them as they went about their day. Occasionally he would nudge Tom's hand with his nose, seeking attention, or curl up next to Sarah on the couch, resting his head on her lap. Each little act of affection was a victory, a reminder that healing takes time, and that love, when given unconditionally, can mend even the deepest wounds. One morning, as the sun rose and painted the sky with soft shades of pink and orange, Max stood by the window watching the birds flutter by. For the first time in what seemed like forever, his eyes held no fear, only peace. He turned around to find Sarah in the kitchen, and without hesitation, he trotted over to her and sat down, looking up at her with an expression of contentment. "Good boy, Max," she whispered, gently stroking his fur. Max responded by wagging his tail, the once hesitant and fearful animal now a dog full of life and joy. Max had found a family that loved him, a family that understood him, and a family that was willing to heal his broken heart, just as much as his physical wounds. It wasn't an easy journey. There were days when Max would retreat into his shell, his past haunting him like a shadow, but with every day that passed, his trust in Sarah and Tom grew. They had given him the one thing he needed most: time. As the months turned into years, Max blossomed into a different dog. He had become a playful, affectionate companion. He loved to run in the yard, chasing after sticks and playing with toys. He was no longer the timid, fearful dog who hid from the world. Max had learned to love again, and in doing so he had found his place in the world. One day, as Sarah and Tom took Max to the park, they saw a family with a young puppy. The little dog was running around, wagging its tail and enjoying the sunshine. Sarah smiled as she watched Max, now happily playing in the park, his ears perked up in excitement. She knew that the road they had traveled together had been difficult, but it was worth every moment. Max had healed, and he was no longer defined by the abuse he had endured. He had found his forever home where he was safe, loved, and happy. As they headed home that day, Max trotted alongside them, his head held high. It wasn't just his body that had healed, it was his heart. Max had found what he had been searching for all along: a family, a place to belong, and a second chance at life. In the years that followed, Max's transformation became an inspiration to everyone who heard his story. He had been given a new beginning, one filled with love, hope, and joy. The scars on his body would always be there, but they were a reminder of how far he had come. Max had found the family that healed his wounds, and together, they had created a life filled with happiness, proving that no matter how dark the past may be, there is always hope for a brighter future. And so, Max's story continues not as a tale of abuse, but as a testament to resilience, love, and the power of healing. The rain hammered against the grimy brick walls of the alleyway, each drop a cold, sharp sting. Rusty, a small, wire-haired terrier mix, huddled beneath a rusted dumpster, his thin body trembling. His fur, once a vibrant tan, was matted and streaked with mud, revealing raw patches of skin beneath. His ribs were starkly visible, a testament to weeks of starvation. His eyes, usually bright and full of life, were dull, filled with a deep, haunting fear. Every sound, the rumble of a distant truck, the skittering of rats, the echoing footsteps on the pavement, sent a jolt of terror through him. He flinched, his body tensing, remembering the heavy boots, the harsh voices, the stinging blows that had become his reality. He was a shadow of his former self, a creature broken and abandoned, left to wither in the city's underbelly. He had once known warmth, a gentle touch, a soft voice. But those memories were fading, replaced by the constant gnawing of hunger and the sharp, unrelenting pain. He closed his eyes, a whimper escaping his throat, a silent plea lost in the city's relentless symphony of noise. He was just waiting for the end, a release from the torment that had become his life. The alleyway was usually deserted, a place avoided by most. But today, a different sound broke through the city's din. A soft, hesitant voice calling out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" A pair of gentle hands parted the overgrown weeds, revealing a young woman, her face etched with concern. Sarah, a volunteer at the local animal shelter, had received a tip about a stray dog in the area. She had come prepared, carrying a small bag of dog treats and a worn blanket. Her eyes scanned the alleyway, finally settling on the trembling form beneath the dumpster. She approached slowly, her voice soft and soothing. "Hey little one, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Rusty, his eyes wide with fear, pressed himself further into the corner, a low growl rumbling in his throat. Sarah stopped, her heart aching for the creature's pain. She tossed a few treats towards him, then retreated a few steps, giving him space. She waited, her patience unwavering. Slowly, tentatively, Rusty crept forward, his nose twitching, drawn by the scent of the treats. He snatched a piece, then retreated, his eyes still wary. Sarah continued to talk to him, her voice a gentle melody, a promise of safety. After several minutes, Rusty, his hunger overpowering his fear, ventured closer, eating the treats one by one. Sarah slowly extended her hand, palm open, offering another treat. He hesitated, then sniffed her hand, his tail giving a tiny, hesitant wag. It was a small gesture, but it was a breakthrough, a spark of trust in the darkness. Sarah carefully coaxed Rusty out from under the dumpster, wrapping him in the warm blanket. She carried him to her car, her heart filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. At the shelter, Rusty was immediately taken to the vet. The examination revealed a catalog of horrors: broken ribs, infected wounds, severe malnutrition, and a deep-seated fear that permeated every fiber of his being. The vet, a seasoned professional who had seen countless cases of animal cruelty, felt a surge of anger mixed with profound compassion. Rusty was given pain medication, his wounds were cleaned and bandaged, and he was placed in a warm, quiet kennel. The shelter staff, a team of dedicated animal lovers, rallied around him, offering him gentle words and comforting touches. They knew it would be a long road to recovery, both physically and emotionally. Rusty spent the first few days at the shelter in a state of quiet despair, barely eating, his eyes still filled with fear. But slowly, gradually he began to respond to the kindness he was shown. He started to eat, his tail gave a tentative wag when he saw Sarah, and he even allowed the staff to pet him. The healing process had begun, a slow, painstaking journey from brokenness to hope. Across town, a family was searching for a new member. The Millers, a family of four, John and Emily, and their two children, 10-year-old Lily and 8-year-old Ben, had recently lost their beloved golden retriever, Max. The house felt empty, the silence deafening. Lily and Ben missed Max's warm fur, his playful bark, his unwavering loyalty. John and Emily missed his comforting presence, his unconditional love. They decided to adopt a rescue dog, hoping to fill the void left by Max's passing. They visited several shelters, their hearts aching for the countless animals in need. At the last shelter they visited, they saw Rusty. He was curled up in his kennel, his eyes still a little wary, but his tail gave a gentle thump when he saw them. Lily and Ben were immediately drawn to him, their faces lighting up with excitement. John and Emily saw the spark of hope in his eyes, a flicker of resilience that spoke to their hearts. They knew he had been through unimaginable pain, but they also saw his potential for love, his capacity for healing. They decided to adopt him, giving him a second chance at life. Rusty's first day at the Miller's home was a mix of apprehension and curiosity. He cautiously explored his new surroundings, sniffing every corner, his tail wagging hesitantly. Lily and Ben showered him with affection, their voices filled with excitement, their hands gentle and reassuring. John and Emily watched with tender smiles, their hearts filled with hope. They had created a safe haven for Rusty, a place where he could heal, where he could learn to trust again. The first few weeks were a period of adjustment. Rusty was still wary of loud noises and sudden movements, but he gradually began to relax, to let go of the fear that had consumed him. He learned to play with Lily and Ben, chasing balls in the backyard, wrestling with their stuffed toys. He enjoyed the warmth of the family's presence, the gentle strokes of their hands, the comforting sound of their voices. He began to eat with gusto, his ribs filling out, his fur growing back thick and glossy. His eyes, once dull and lifeless, began to sparkle with joy. He was transforming, not just physically but emotionally, shedding the layers of trauma that had weighed him down. As the weeks turned into months, Rusty's transformation continued. He became a loyal and loving member of the Miller family, a constant source of joy and companionship. He followed Lily and Ben everywhere, his tail wagging enthusiastically. He snuggled up beside John and Emily on the couch, his head resting on their laps. He learned to trust, to believe in the goodness of humans, to let go of the pain of his past. He became an integral part of the family's daily life, joining them on walks in the park, accompanying them on car rides, sleeping soundly at the foot of their beds. He was no longer the broken, fearful creature who had huddled in the alleyway. He was a happy, healthy, and loved dog, a testament to the power of resilience and the transformative power of love. He was a survivor, a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, second chances are possible. Rusty's scars, both physical and emotional, never fully disappeared. The raw patches of skin on his back remained, a reminder of the abuse he had endured. He would sometimes flinch at loud noises, his eyes widening with a flicker of fear. But these scars were no longer a source of pain. They were a part of his story, a testament to his strength, his resilience, his ability to overcome adversity. They were a reminder of the journey he had taken, from the depths of despair to the heights of happiness. They were a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the most broken creatures can be healed, that even the most wounded hearts can learn to love again. Rusty's story became a beacon of hope for other animals in need. The Millers shared his journey on social media, inspiring countless people to adopt rescue animals, to give them a second chance at life. They volunteered at the animal shelter, helping to care for other dogs and cats who had suffered similar fates. They became advocates for animal welfare, raising awareness about the importance of responsible pet ownership and the fight against animal cruelty. Rusty's story became a symbol of the power of compassion, the transformative power of love, the unwavering belief in second chances. He showed the world that even in the face of unimaginable pain, hope can prevail, that love can heal, that every creature deserves a chance to live a happy and fulfilling life. His journey was a testament to the resilience of the animal spirit and the boundless capacity for love that exists within us all. He was more than just a rescued dog. He was a teacher, a healer, a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in a world filled with darkness, love can always find a way to shine through.